I stood in my office at the top of Parker Industries headquarters, watching the city lights flicker on as dusk settled. On my desk sat 2 items: my Harvard Business School diploma and a bankruptcy notice for my parents' company, Mason Manufacturing. "Miss Parker," my assistant David interrupted my thoughts, "your parents have arrived for the meeting." "Let them wait in the lobby for 20 minutes, I replied. Just like they made me wait at my graduation before telling me they weren't coming. 5 years earlier I'd sat in my dorm room already in my graduation gown staring at my phone. 5 years earlier. "What do you mean you're not coming?" My voice shook as I gripped the phone. "Nancy, the Miller contract meeting got moved up," Dad explained impatiently. "This could save the company. You understand that the business has to come first." "It's my Harvard graduation," I protested. "You haven't attended a single important event in my life because of that business. My high school graduation, my debate team championships, and now this." Mom took the phone. "Honey, you're being dramatic. The business feeds this family. Pays for that fancy education of yours. The business is more important than one ceremony." "One ceremony?" I laughed bitterly. "This is my graduation from Harvard Business School. With honors. The education I got on scholarship, by the way, not from your business." "Well, then you should understand better than anyone," Dad came back on. "Business comes first. Always." I looked at the empty chairs I'd reserved in the graduation hall, right in the front row. "You're right. I do understand. I understand perfectly. That's my girl," Dad said, relief in his voice. "We'll make it up to you." "No," I said quietly. "You won't. Because after today you won't get the chance." I hung up and blocked their numbers. They didn't know that while they were choosing their failing business over their daughter, I'd been building my own empire. Starting with a small tech consulting firm in my dorm room, I'd grown Parker Industries into a powerhouse that specialized in turning around failing manufacturing companies. They didn't know that every time they missed a milestone in my life, I'd channeled that hurt into studying their industry, learning its weaknesses, preparing for the day I'd show them what real business leadership looked like. And they certainly didn't know that their precious Miller contract, the one more important than their only daughter's graduation, would fall through spectacularly, sending Mason Manufacturing into a death spiral that would end with today's meeting. 5 years later, I adjusted my designer suit and checked my reflection in the window. The shy, eager-to-please daughter they'd ignored was gone, replaced by a CEO whose company was known for its ruthless efficiency in acquiring and transforming failing businesses. "They've been waiting 23 minutes now," David announced. "Perfect." I picked up my folder containing the bankruptcy documents and their desperate email begging for a meeting with Parker Industries CEO. Time to teach them a lesson about priorities. "Should I tell them you're coming?" "No," I smiled, thinking of all the times they'd kept me waiting. "Let them sweat a little longer. After all, business comes first." The lobby of Parker Industries was all sleek glass and polished steel, a stark contrast to Mason Manufacturing's dated wood paneling and worn carpets. Through the security feed, I watched my parents shift uncomfortably on the modern furniture, looking small against the towering digital displays showing my company's latest successes. "The CEO of Parker Industries will see you now," David announced formally, leading them to my office. I stood with my back to the door, gazing out at the city skyline where several buildings bore the Parker Industries logo. The door opened and I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. "Nancy." I turned slowly, savoring the shock on their faces. "Actually, it's Miss Parker in this building. Please take a seat." They sank into the chairs across from my desk, their expressions cycling through disbelief, confusion, and, finally, dawning comprehension. You own Parker Industries?" Dad stammered. "Built it from scratch," I replied, sitting down. "Started it in my dorm room at Harvard. You know, during that graduation ceremony you missed." "Why didn't you tell us?" Mom asked. "Tell you?" I laughed. "When? During the Christmas calls you never made? The birthdays you forgot because of inventory meetings? Or maybe during my graduation that was less important than a contract you ended up losing anyway?" Dad straightened in his chair. "Now listen here, young lady dash." "No, you listen," I cut him off, pulling up Mason Manufacturing's financials on my office wall screen. "Your company is 3 weeks from complete collapse. You've lost 70% of your market share in 5 years. Your equipment is obsolete, Your processes are inefficient and your management style. I paused, looking directly at them. Well, let's just say prioritizing business over family didn't work out so well, did it? We need capital, Mom said quietly. Just a bridge loan to modernize dash. Like the loan you could have gotten 5 years ago? When I sent you that detailed modernization proposal right after graduation. The one you dismissed because, and I quote, "What does a fresh graduate know about real manufacturing?" They had the grace to look ashamed. Well, I continued, opening a folder. Now this fresh graduate owns the largest manufacturing modernization firm in 3 states. And you're here begging for a meeting. We're not begging, Dad protested weakly. I pulled out their email and read aloud, "Dear CEO of Parker Industries, we desperately need your help. Our company, our life's work is failing. Please, we'll do anything." Sounds like begging to me. I placed the email down. So let's talk about anything. I slid 2 documents across the desk. Option 1. Parker Industries buys Mason Manufacturing for pennies on the dollar. You both retire immediately with basic pension. No golden parachutes, no consulting positions, no board seats. And option 2? Mom asked. Option 2. I let Mason Manufacturing go bankrupt. Then I buy it for even less at auction and you get nothing. Your choice. You'd do that to your own parents? Dad's face reddened. Business comes first, I quoted back to them. Isn't that what you always taught me? We were trying to build something for you. Mom burst out. No, I corrected coldly. You were trying to build something for yourselves. And you failed. At both the business and being parents. I stood up, walking to my display case. Inside was my Harvard diploma, framed alongside my first business license and Parker Industries' first acquisition contract. You have 24 hours to decide, I said. Oh, and one more thing. I pressed a button and the wall screen changed to show a photo, empty chairs in a graduation hall, tagged with my parents' names. I kept this as a reminder, I explained, of exactly how it feels when business comes before family. Consider it while you're making your decision. 6 months after the acquisition, Mason Manufacturing was unrecognizable. The old factory floor had been transformed with state-of-the-art automation, the workforce retrained and expanded, and productivity had tripled. But the most dramatic transformation wasn't in the machinery, it was in the corner office, where my parents now worked as junior operations consultants. Miss Parker, David appeared at my door, your parents' quarterly review is due. Send them in. They entered cautiously, dressed in Parker Industries' standard business attire instead of their former executive suits. 6 months of answering to their daughter had stripped away their arrogance, replacing it with something I'd never seen before, humility. Have a seat, I gestured, pulling up their performance metrics. Let's discuss your first 6 months under new management. The modernization program is. Dad hesitated. Impressive. Everything you suggested 5 years ago. You mean everything you dismissed because real manufacturing doesn't need fancy computers? I reminded him. How's that working out now? Mom shifted uncomfortably. The productivity numbers speak for themselves. We were wrong, Nancy. About everything. Miss Parker, I corrected. And yes, you were wrong. About the business, about modernization, and most importantly, about priorities. I turned my monitor to show them a particular spreadsheet. Do you know what this is? They leaned forward, studying the numbers. It's a list, I continued, of every important event you missed because of business. My debate championships, honor society inductions, graduations, each one with the corresponding Mason Manufacturing meeting or crisis that was supposedly more important. Nancy, Miss Parker, Dad corrected himself, we thought we were doing the right thing. The right thing. I stood, walking to my wall of achievements. While you were missing my life milestones for your failing business, I was building this. Every award, every acquisition, every success, achieved while maintaining 100% attendance at my employees' important family events. We've noticed, Mom said softly. The way you run things here, it's so different. Because I learned from your mistakes, I replied. Every time you chose business over family, I promised myself I'd find a way to do both. Every time you dismissed innovation for tradition, I studied harder to prove you wrong. David appeared with a new set of documents. The new contracts are ready. I handed my parents 2 folders. Open them. Inside were employment contracts, real ones, not the temporary consulting positions they'd held for 6 months. You're keeping us on? Dad asked, surprised. I'm offering you a chance to learn, I corrected. These are 5-year contracts for senior manufacturing advisors. The compensation is fair, the hours are reasonable, and most importantly, I pointed to a specific clause. Mandatory attendance at family events is required. Family events? Mom whispered. Yes. Starting with dinner at my house this Sunday. All employee families are invited. It's a monthly tradition at Parker Industries. We celebrate birthdays, achievements, graduations. You know, all those things you thought weren't as important as business. They stared at the contracts, then at each other. When do we start? Dad asked quietly. You already have. I turned to my window, looking out at what used to be their factory. For 6 months, you've been learning what real business leadership looks like. The question is, are you ready to learn what real family looks like too? We'd like to try, Mom said, her voice thick with emotion. Good. I sat back down. Because unlike you, I believe family and business can coexist. But remember this. I pointed to the nameplate on my desk. I'm not just your daughter anymore. I'm the CEO who saved your company when your priorities destroyed it. As they left, clutching their new contracts, I heard Dad say to Mom, our daughter built an empire by doing everything we said couldn't be done. No, I murmured, watching the sun set over my expanding industrial park. I built it by doing everything you should have done. Putting people first, embracing innovation, and remembering that true success isn't measured by contracts won, but by moments shared.